inequality, fucking over each other. No more, no more. Fuck competition. Fuck inequality. Fucking over each other. No more, no more. Thank you for tuning in and supporting OT301 Radio. It feels great to be back here, an alternative venue downtown Amsterdam that continues to be a safe space for cultural development. This is a set with my poems, tracks I appreciate, and a short conversation with an old friend of mine, Robin Timmers. 1 and 1 making 3 and 4 and millions. Uniting is remembering the origin of multiple. Covered in glitters, stardust, dew, freckles, and other particles of love. Attention, perception, overflowing affection. Smiles in hours, after stars in planets, after slower and faster. A movement that makes you want to live. Unconditional beings, adoring beings, for we are storing future in the hands that make love. 1 and 1 and another 1 in the making. Kissing is creating, is anticipating, is falling under a tree, running into a vision of another you and me and other millions. So are we. That was El Suelo desde el Viento by Maria Romano, a Colombian composer, an interdisciplinary sound artist and activist. She created a great platform that is also a festival in Tiempo Real. The encounters through music, through music and technology, a feminist space for conversations with women who identify as cis, trans, and non-binary. Voices in the head. Short circuits of a bunch of desires, unable to make plans for any kind of future. Thought circuits skipping through us, jumping into long rainy days, unnecessary messages massaging our exhausted minds. Treadmills of truths catch attention on the run. All of it makes sense to all the nonsense, non-noise, nosy boats streaming into rivers of a consciousness we choose to share. Short smiles, long walks, happy days, long gone, dissipating into familiar clouds of voices, faces, hands that touch, wired to unwatching programs of sequences, you see, social circuits, or should I say social circus, of a bunch of desires, gestating, articulating, not so much fornicating anymore. Each circuit brain surpasses the other, the open call, and so it goes further and further into a rooting voltage. Image resistance, spatial connection, isolating that circuit that is home. And yeah, you know, I lived for many years in Colombia, and the recent events there in relation to protests touched me and disturbed me profoundly. Then the other day I found a track that resonated with what I feel about it. Varsovia, it's a Peruvian synth punk band, and this track is from an album called Inhuman Resources. The track itself is called They Want Blood. Ellos quieren sangre.
Genocidio es una campaña por la exterminación. Pide la
is to read reality. We read poems, the news, tarot cards, people's faces, music scores, our own intentions. But what if reality is unreadable? What if we are fooling ourselves into believing that there are codes and we are mastering the patterns? Our love for order and for deciphering its underlying meaning is a tricky ability to see and yet to obscure our own vision. Reading takes on the form of writing. We pick up kaleidoscopic pieces of our memory and reorder them at our own will, mastering words, numbers, colors, appropriating them, becoming players in a game of uncertainty that inspires our will to take control. I Am the Meat is a track by Ill from an album We Are Ill. Body is divided, 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 division, division, division. There is no vision in division, no vision, but everybody is dividing, dividing, deciding who you are, why you are. Fear, fear who you are. If you are alone, fear us dividing, you deciding for you. Who you are, why you are, you are, you are. You are alone, 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 indivisible, individual, invisible. Invisible if you do not divide. If you do not divide, you get divided. What you eat, what you wear, where you sleep, what you share, what thoughts you keep, for who you care. Divided and decided, fear rules here. Divided and decided, fear rules there. Individual, individuals, where are you? When do you not divide? Perfect Freedom by Shonen Knife. As you probably know, an all-girl Japanese band formed in 1981. This song is from their album from 2011, Free Time. How much more war do we need to instigate and prolong for this illusion of peace? How much more war do we need to instigate and prolong for this illusion of self? So I take and I take more distance, for it is my creation I break, I remake and call fake. Now I am the distance, the bridge and the war. How much more my doubt and fear, and my power and struggle. In my words is a world, in the world there are words that I juggle around. Is this peace that I hear, or another way to entertain this division I am, this division I fear? Cleaning is an experience, whipping and scratching too. They gradually become an experiment. You dig deeper into it, make a lab of it. Then there are others who explain it to you. To listen, lament, mental, name. The clean thing exceeds boundaries, all expectations. Learning is a desire not to hurt. It can be exciting to clean. Some things expire and cry. When you become an urban nun, do not forget to spell it so, urban nun. Then each day will be an invention of a new practice that is magical, secretly horny, and involves lots of walking on busy streets without talking to anyone. You will start making up your own rules of conduct, making sure that once they are broken, you did not lose your title. The nun must entertain her desires in the privacy of her head, whilst no one around her should notice her being initiated into a celibate movement that celebrates women's right to be alone and horny. Now a beautiful slow track by Big Joni, a black feminist sister punk band, Cut Your Hair, from Cluster Room Sessions. daily hope, torture, hopping on your furniture, tearing off little pieces. Cakes, glasses, and stickers talk to other objects informally. You make them friends, undoubtedly. Without it, you'd be worse off without it. This torture is to become human, never fanatically, but driving in memory, starting a summary not accidentally, glowing in a tired kind of way, putting a point on the head of the gift. It is a miracle in all that has lived. All those sweet precautions were not in the least perceptions, starvations, alone inspirations, a gate, loving you dearly, now teaching you how to move, whispering clearly. There is a form, from there you call, receive and be strong, be the vulnerability that is asked of this song. Bring now the ability. Eyes follow and lead to the whole. There you will find them. There they also live by giving a day of the soul. Yeah, that was another track by Varsovia, the Peruvian synth punk band. And this track was called En mi cabeza, which literally means in my head. And yeah, the voices in our heads. Well, the other day I was really happy to meet an old friend of mine, Robin Timmers, and we got to talk a bit about his work with Hearing Voices community. So let's check it out, the recording of that talk. Sorry.
Okay, and you're recording all this?
Yes. I'm recording you eating an apple.
Oh no.
But
Okay.
so, I don't know, where do we begin?
Where do we begin? Maybe on the crossroads of music,
Yeah.
creativity, and extraordinary sensory experiences.
Wow. Yeah, that's an interesting term. Extraordinary sensory experiences.
Yeah. So by that I mean, for instance, hearing sounds or voices without there being noises in the environment where that sound comes from, but you hear it anyway. It can be music, can be a voice that says something. Same with visions. You can see things while they're not in the physical environment, but you can see them, and they're actual, real experiences, but they're extraordinary because there's no stimulus around.
Would you say everybody has those experiences?
Well, I don't know about everybody, but it happens way more than the people in psychiatry thought of, because they used to see it as an hallucination, a symptom of a disorder, and that very few people have that, mostly people with schizophrenia, they thought, but it's actually as common as being left-handed or having a homosexual preference.
Yeah.
Like about 13% of the people sometimes have these kind of experiences.
Yeah. But so how is it different from when people just have thoughts?
Because you don't experience it as coming from your own mind or your own brain. It in Dutch, het overkomt je.
Yeah.
So it's and most of the time, as for voices, you don't. Most people don't see those voices as their own voices, but voices of something or somebody else that is talking to them or about them, or so as coming from outside of the person.
And they have no control over it.
No, especially in the beginning, maybe as time unfolds and you learn what helps and what doesn't help to cope with these kind of experiences, or to understand these kind of experiences, maybe you learn how to live with them and not completely control them, but interact with them in a way that maybe isn't negative for you, and is even positive for you, as for instance a source of inspiration for art or for spirituality or
Yeah. So you wrote a book about this.
Yeah, and I have a lot of experiences with these kinds of things.
Because you also have this experience. But the book is not only discussing this that this occurs, but also it's a kind of guide. It helps people. It helps people that have it. It helps people that the social workers, the families, right?
Yeah, for everybody involved. So many people who hear voices are looking for ways to cope with them and understand it. So try to offer informations and like tools to handle it and understand it. But family and friends also have a big question mark above their head, and mental health care workers, they've been, for the most part, been trained to see it as a symptom of disease or a symptom of psychosis or schizophrenia, while it's actually a human experience of all times and of all ages, and that doesn't only have negative aspects but also positive aspects. So we try to inform them too and give them like tools to support people who hear voices.
Yeah, exactly. So because before people thought it was some kind of a religious experience, of course.
Yeah, it's from all ages. And for instance, I was in Australia, and the Aboriginal people, they listened to the voices of their ancestors and of the land for thousands of years.
Yeah.
You know, and in religious context, Jesus, Muhammad, and Buddha, they all heard voices.
Yeah.
And it's an important part of that religion, of that theology, you know.
But so I know that you traveled with this book to different conferences, and there are these communities all around the planet.
Yeah.
they're all connected somehow, and it's a movement now, right?
Yes, it is the Hearing Voices movement, and it started in the Netherlands in the 80s. And what's special about it, it's kind of a counterculture within psychiatry, and it's one of the first places where experts by experience, so ervaringsdeskundigen, started working and started expressing their own ideas and their own stories and experiences and their critical ideas of what's can be improved in mental health care. So it's a activistic movement, but it's coming to the mainstream now because
So on one hand, you are approaching it politically to gain more visibility and rights within the society, right?
To emancipate it, as a variation
for the subculture, but also there's also research into it still, so it's not clear at all actually what it is, what it means.
And actually the research, but the voice hearers in the 80s, by that time, the word recovery didn't exist. And then people with the diagnosis of schizophrenia, they were supposed to be lifelong ill, but they recovered anyway. And they said, hey, these experiences, they are meaningful, and they're often related to things that happened in my life. It's not some disorder of my brain, and I can understand it and learn how to live with it. So it's kind of, we talked about it before this broadcast about free spaces, like the OT is a free space for art, and within the Hearing Voices movement and peer support, we try to create free spaces too, where people can be themselves and openly express their ideas and share their experiences and think of finding new ways.
And so because this platform that you're creating, well, it's already existing, but you're broadening it. And there's musicians in it and painters, I guess, all kinds of...
we developed a course about hearing voices with these three groups, like voice hearers, family and friends, and mental health care workers together. And everybody exchanges ideas and experiences, and every time we can start a band. There's musicians in it, poets, also people that really released books or albums, like Vincent Vierstra. He released his album Sarangi Sessions in Amsterdam last week. We were there.
Yeah, that was a great opening at the Platypus record shop.
And another guy, he's called Lucinate, is this artist name, and he released an album with Amon Tobin, like jazz music. So some of them are actually professional or semi-professional artists at the same time, and poets like Geert Zomer and Marlijn Pieks. And some are like the underground or have it as a kind of hobby, but there's a lot of creativity going on, and actually to cope with hearing voices you have to be creative. Somehow it seems to be a quality that goes together with this kind of experience.
So actually, while you were doing your research, you probably realized that it's already part of our culture, and it's in many songs or in literature that people do talk about it. But I'm guessing now with this movement, more people are coming out, and are more honest about it.
And I think the artistic community, the cultural community, and I experienced this myself in my own recovery too. That's a place where diversity is welcomed. So when I, for instance, met you like 14 years ago in artistic environment, people accepted me as Robin without the stigma of being schizophrenic or a psychiatric patient. I was just a person with unique qualities, and that can be really helpful in recovery and emancipation. And that's what we try to do too, to offer these kind of inclusive environments where diversity is welcomed instead of stigmatized.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. And knowing you for 14 years, I've only seen you being very functional, very creative. You created Party for Peace, where I started performing. You wrote this book that's helping other people. And these free spaces you're talking about, they are geographical, they're locations, but they're also
just bringing people together. It doesn't really matter where, right?
Yeah, anywhere, anytime. On the internet is possible too. Yeah, yeah. And by the way, before I met you, I had some years of really difficult struggles and crises, and I've been hospitalized and put in isolation rooms, forced medication. I've been on the streets. So, hearing voices can coincide with severe crisis, but it's important to know that you can recover.
Yeah, you definitely overcame it, and you've built your own life. So it's you give a great example to everyone, I would say.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, well, can I say at the website?
Sure.
www.omgaanmetstemhoren.nl. You can find more information about the Hearing Voices Support Centers and about the book I read. It's called Leren omgaan met stemhoren.
The book you wrote.
Ja. Leren omgaan met stemhoren op herstel en emancipatiegerichte benaderingen. So thank you very much.
Great, thanks.
Yeah. So Robin mentioned Vincent Zwierstra, who's part of his platform. And I'd like to play a track of his from the Sarangi Sessions Volume 1, A Flower Will Rise. So yeah, to close this hour, I'd like to play a track from the latest album of the Meridian Brothers called Cumbia Siglo XXI. And the song is Cumbia of Friendship, because if there's one thing I learned from the past years, that old friendships are gold and can get us through pretty much anything. Take care of each other and see you soon.
Mis perros pintan la realidad, porque yo soy como soy. Mis perros pintan la realidad, porque yo soy como soy. Perros pintan la realidad, porque yo soy como soy.